Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secureteam. So today is a bit of a fun and interesting video because we have two sort of gifts, I guess you could call them, from planet Mars. Two different things that were just recorded on the red planet that I think speak highly to the theory that Mars, although masqueraded as the sort of red dead planet, and that it's basically just a dormant, floating rock out in space. Instead, and as the evidence has shown over the years, at least in my opinion, this planet holds many secrets, and that very well may be inhabited as we speak, with activity happening above, but more importantly, below the surface. And I'm going to show you what I mean here in a second. So we got two things from planet Mars, one above ground and one below. Now, one is a little bit more mysterious than the other, but they're both really cool, and I wanted to show you guys this first. Here we have a video, a time-lapse of the clouds rolling across the Martian surface. And so this beautiful shot here was taken by NASA's InSight lander. They had just got this particularly lovely view of some fluffy Martian clouds this past week, and I want you guys to notice just how clear and white the sky is, very similar to planet Earth. Do you guys remember back in the day where NASA and the other space agencies were pushing so hard this idea that Mars was red, the sky was red, and some of the first images from Mars, or many of them, showed this real red, dusty sky that was sort of void of blues or whites or anything that looked like here on Earth. And then they had some photographs slip through that I guess they forgot to edit that showed the true color of Mars, more importantly in the Martian sky, which has beautiful shades of blues and grays and whites, and looks very similar to planet Earth. Now, my only guess that the reason they'd be hiding this is because they don't want us to know that Mars may very well have more of an atmosphere than we know about and is still much more like Earth than they are letting on. And so now, over the years, they've kind of just let it be that it's obvious that the skies on Mars are not this deep orange or red. They look very similar, if not identical, to planet Earth. And so we have this new video here showing that, which I thought was really cool. And then more importantly, and what goes to this theory that not just me, but many have, that there is definitely underground activity happening underneath Mars, because although Mars, granted, is likely covered in radiation, something happened to it. It used to be another planet Earth, and studies are showing this every day. Here we have a report speaking about how Mars used to be covered with oceans and rivers and lakes twice as wide as Earth's. Other studies showing that the rocks and the other features of planet Mars are proving that it was once basically another Earth before something major happened on the surface that wiped everything out. And so the theory is that whoever inhabited the planet had to go underground. They either had to go off planet because they could no longer live on the surface, or they went underground. And I think you would have a little bit of both. If something were to happen to planet Earth, I think if we had the technology, we would go off planet, but I think many of us would try to find a way to live underground. And the evidence seems to show that there is definitely underground activity, potentially massive tunnels, a complex of tunnels crisscrossing the planet underground. And well, before we go any further, here is that other recording that I was talking about, taken again by the Mars InSight lander, of a mystery rumble coming up from deep under the surface. First one that they've ever picked up or recorded of a sound that, although they call it a Mars quake, or what they've dubbed it as a Mars quake, sounds almost like something coming up from the distance and then passing directly underneath the area where the lander is, and then continues on its way, kind of like you would think of an underground railway, or something moving extremely fast and then dissipating. It does not sound like an earthquake, so give this a listen. Okay, so as you're seeing in the diagram here, the first sounds that are picked up are the Martian wind. And then we have this likely Mars quake, as they call it, which sounds almost like has sort of a metallic twinge to it. Again, the only way I can describe it is if you ever been in a subway and you've heard the subway train coming on, the screeching of the metal as it approaches from the distance and then passes by super fast and then quickly dissipates. And that's what this sounds like to me. And then at the end of the recording, they've dubbed this few little sounds here as the robotic arm, possibly shaking or hitting the ground as the rumble took place. So one more time, let me play you this and tell me if this doesn't sound like something very quickly passing by underneath the surface. Okay, so really strange to me. Now, obviously, they're not going to come out and tell us at all if this, well, what it is. They're especially not going to come out and tell us if it's artificial or if it's something unnatural. They're obviously going to say it's a Mars quake, regardless. But I think when you listen to it, it sounds like something else, something very big, something that is coming up underneath and passing by, followed by these sort of metallic screeching sounds that you guys can hear for a second after whatever passes by underneath happens. And so this video illustrates this so-called seismic event. That's a better term for it. Seismic event that was detected by the InSight lander on April 6th. The ground vibrations were picked up and measured by the spacecraft's seismometer. And so I wanted to play you guys this, what they're calling a seismic event. First one they've been able to record like this that sounds, it perfectly fits in with the theory that there is some sort of mass underground transit system underneath Mars. Now, if you look at the images, satellite images that have been taken of the planet, obviously there are thousands of anomalous structures plastered all over this planet. Remnants of buildings, towers, monoliths, statues, faces, things that have been weathered over millions of years. However, the satellite images have also shown, sort of spread out across the planet, here and there, what appear to be clear metallic entrances to something underground. And you're seeing those various images here where you will get these sort of partially covered up, perfectly square entrances into the darkness that are surrounded by these metallic beams that look totally artificial. Then we have the very controversial set of photographs purporting to show some of these actual underground tunnel systems, which many believe, according to these photos and from analyzing them, are not made out of metal or constructed out of metal like the subways here on Earth, but look to be made up of some sort of glass-like structure, inside which you have these very fast-traveling metallic spheres or vehicles that I guess sort of roll through. And a perfect example of that is in this satellite image here, where you can see this sort of uprooted tunneling system, and then sitting inside one of the tubes and highlighted by our very own sun being reflected off of it is a spherical object sitting within this strange glass tubing, which you can see. I mean, it's a perfect reflection of sunlight glinting off of it. Looks like a large metal marble. And so whatever exists under Mars, it may look something like this artist rendition here, with thousands of miles of transit tubes stretching and crisscrossing underneath the surface, connecting to these various entrance points. Another thing that makes me believe that they are building under Mars and that they are constructing something is because a couple of years back, people started noticing some very strange circular indentations on the Martian surface. Even NASA admitted it. And these circular structures baffled scientists. You're seeing an image of one here where originally they thought these were just your typical impact craters. But as you guys can see in the comparison, and when you compare this to other impact craters, they're not the same. Because what we have here, as opposed to impact craters where you have something large slamming into the surface, here we have something that looks like it was imploded from the inside, where you have this depression left. Same type of depression that you would have when they do, deep core drilling here on Earth, or detonate explosives underneath the surface for mining and things of that nature. They leave these types of depressions, and that's what was discovered on Mars, as if something had caused the surface to implode here, which would lead me to infer that the dirt and the debris underneath the surface is being moved around. They are making room underneath the surface, and that's how you do it, or at least that's how we do it here on Earth. So with this new recording here of whatever this was passing by, I wanted to let you guys check it out. Do you think it's just a Mars quake? I think it's better called a seismic event, obviously, but to me it sounded like something passing by very quickly. So with that, tell me what you think. I'll put a link to the audio down below. Stay tuned, stay safe, and I'll see you back in just a bit.